listeners, Harika here, and I'm super excited to welcome you to UppTalk. If you're ready to learn and get your hands work wonders in the world of information technology, then you're in the right place. When I say UppTalk, we are not just another edtech company. Consider we are your learning partner committed to unlocking your full potential. Whether you're stepping into the world of technology for the first time or looking to advance your career, we provide top-tier, hands-on courses to build up your career. Let's take our first step towards learning here and explore it.
What is performance tuning is sometimes because of data or because of design of the data in the report. What happens is we will not be able to load the reports. We will not be able to load the data on time. They will take much longer time to refresh the reports. And sometimes because of the timeout properties, they will try to refresh for around some 10 to 20 minutes of time. And if still it is getting loaded, then we will get an error like timeout error. In some situations we will get because the server is not able to refresh the reports or generate the data. That we say has a bad performance because whenever we want to see something, some reports we need it on time. If they are quickly refreshed, user will be happy. Some scenarios, what happens is the reports itself are very big. If we refresh manually, it will take much of time and this timeout error will happen. For that reason, what we do is for the reports which are used frequently, like daily or weekly, instead of redoing refresh manually, what we do is we will schedule the reports. There is an option to schedule Webby reports. There we will set up like in which format we want to see the output, whether it is Web Intelligence or Excel or PDF. We can select those. We can select those options and we will. We can give the time options like when we need the report to run, start time and stop time. And we will set up the frequency like monthly, weekly, daily. And we will also give the prompts. If there are any prompts, we will give the prompt values and we will set up that schedule. That once we set up the schedule based on the schedule frequency, it will automatically refresh at the given time. And the user will be able to see the output. That is one of the options. For the reports, which is having long time, we usually do the scheduling instead of refreshing the reports on manually ad hoc. That is one option. But sometimes that scheduling is not possible or sometimes the report performance itself is very bad, like it is taking longer time in the schedule also or when we are refreshing also. If it is taking longer than expected time, then we say that the report is not working. And that's all. Then engine switch is also because the load is no longer needles much. Let's say you want to mess with the mode without using the mode dimension. You can add any mode dimension to the new label and see the load is complicated. Or set it up like this and you would get your predicted load won't practically work on your new level. There are a lot of functions like management or perhaps sometimes you could do it as regular load as known. That is created correct databases. If databases are performing, if there is an issue at the database level that we cannot fix in our Beaver side. But if the issue is from Beaver side, we have to check the root cause of the bad performance, and we have to fix those issues. That is called as a performance tuning. First, we have to check whether it's issue from the Beaver side or from the database side. To see that, to understand how we can like to know the root cause, whether it is from Beaver side or from database side, we can do one thing. As I told you already, for all the Beaver reports, there will be a background SQL generated. What we can do is we can go to that query panel view SQL and we can copy that SQL in a notepad or somewhere we can copy. And we paste that SQL in the database level. If you are using Oracle or MySQL, we also have the database interface. There we can execute SQL commands and see the output. If you don't have the access, also we can provide the SQL to the database team and they will execute the report from their side and they'll see if they are getting the report data properly or not. From the database side, we can also see the report output. But it is not like formatting in our Beaver report. We can have many formatting options. But in our database side, if we execute some code, it is not much clear to the user, but we can see the data we can export to Excel. That's it. We can do more analysis using the SQL, report output generated at the database level. That's why we are using these reporting tools for more visualization and interaction purpose. Then what we can do is we can copy the SQL of the report and we can execute the same SQL in the database level. And we will see if the report is generating faster or not. If it is taking same time like our Beaver, if it is taking long time in the database level also, then we can clearly confirm that the issue is not at the Beaver report level. The issue is at from the database level because there also the report is taking long time to generate the output. We can clearly say like the same timings are happening in the both layers. It is not a Beaver issue. It is an issue that should be fixed from the database side. That is the first point that we have to do to check like whether the issue is from our side or from the database side. Here at the same point they have mentioned, like I'm just reading out for a more technical clarity for you guys. Performance related issues can be encountered at the visualization or reporting layer. Means visualizations means if you are using any dashboards or ACAC, or reporting layer means our web intelligence. We can encounter those issues at any layer, or semantic layer means universe layer. There might be issues at a universe layer, or that can be issued from a database layer like Oracle, MySQL. The issue can be from a server layer. The performance related issue can be encountered in among of any of these layers. Following are the steps to do a root cause analysis of the performance issues. First, we have to understand what is the root cause of this bad performance of the report. What is the root cause of this performance issue? First, if we understand and if we decided of the root cause, then we can take steps to improve the performance. These are the steps that we have to follow. Report level query execution in the database. That is what I just said. Like we have to take the SQL from the report layer and you execute in the database side. If execution time of the query is less than report execution time, then tuning might be required at report or universal server level. If the query is executing at the database level, then we have to take the SQL from the report layer, and then we have to take the SQL from the report layer, and then we have to take the SQL from the report layer. If the query is executing at the database level, within less than report side time, then we can say like it is not the issue with the database layer. It is the issue after database. It can be issued in any layer, like it can be issued from the universe layer, or it can be issued from the report layer, or it can be issued from the server level. If execution of execution time of the query is same or greater than report execution time. But if the database is taking more than report execution time at the database side, then we can say that the performance tuning is required at database level. Database, our Beaver or team, Beaver developers, will not be working on team database level because we have some other teams who work on database. If the issue is from database side, they will just say that it is an issue from the database side. Desert. try to do the performance tuning from their side. Then they will see like which tables are there in the query, which they will split this S, Q, L in multiple statements and see like which table is causing the issue. And if required, they do the tables. They might do some partition or something at the database level. They will use aggregate database, aggregated tables, or some of the option at the database level to fix the performance issue from the database side. But if the issue is from the database side, they will just say that it is an issue from the database side. We have to check whether it is a report side, or it is a universe side, or it is a server side. And we have to take responsibility from our BO team, and we have to fix the issue from our BO side. That is the steps that we have to do perform to understand the root cause of this issue. Once we understood the report, if the issue is because of the report layer, we can do performance of the report. That is the first step. That is the second step. That is the third step. That is the fourth step. This is the third step. This is the fourth step. We are going to write the report level by following actions. The performance at the report level can be made optimum by following actions. These are the points that we can do to improve the performance at report level. First, what we do as a general checkpoints is first, we will minimize usage of report variables and formulas. Sometimes yesterday I have shown you like if we want some formula like a margin per unit, but we don't have that key figure or measure directly from the universe. What we can do is we will create that margin by quantity, that is a margin per unit. And we can consume that in our reporting layer. But in some situations, what reports consist of is like a more number of key figures, which has huge calculations. In those scenarios, to perform those calculations at report level, it will impact the server. It will load the server much. We have to try to minimize. If there are few variables which have limited calculations, but if the report is consisting of many variables, many formulas with huge calculations inside it, it will definitely impact the server performance and report performance. In those situations, we have to check the reports if they have many variables or formulas inside it. If you see here, if the report is pulling tons of data, doing loads of joins, using a lot of report variables and formulas, report may run very slow. Report variables and formulas are loaded and calculated in memory at real time. All these variables and formulas, they should be calculated in memory at real time. They will use the memory of the server which is available on at that time. As variables are created at real time and calculations are performed at report takes more time to execute. We have huge variables with a lot of formulas inside it, as they have to run the report layer itself, because when we refresh the report, it will real time. It should do the calculations because the data will be changing always. They have to use all the objects used in the formula. The data should be loaded at the real time, and they have. It has to compute that calculation. It will impact the server. For that, what they can do is also for that scenario, it will definitely impact the report performance. For that, what we have to do is, for example, when we are dealing with big reports, then we should minimize usage of report variables and formulas. Try to place them at universe or better at ETL level to deliver high performance reports. We know that these formulas are definitely required and these are taking long time to execute in the report. As part of performance tuning, what we can do is if the report is having huge calculations and if we are using those variables in multiple reports, what we can do is instead of creating them in the report layer, we can create them in the universe layer. that the calculation will be done at the universe level. It will not impact the report servers. Or what we can do is sometimes we also have a ETL. ETL is like ETL stands for extract, transform, and load. We also use ETL tools in our reporting purpose. What they do is they will extract from the database to our reporting. In between, there will be a ETL tool. If you have ETL tool like that, like Informatica Power Center, one of the example of ETL tool is Informatica Power Center or SAP BusinessObjects, Data Services Boards. If you have any ETL tool like that, it is better to create those formulas in the ETL tool or universe level that it will not. The calculations will be done at those levels and it will not impact the performance of the reports because they are not computing in real time. We can try to. First, we have to check the report. If there are having many variables and many formulas which are using in multiple places but for multiple reports, we decide like this is the issue. Because of this, we are getting the performance tuning problem. Performance issue. For that, what we can do is, instead of creating these variables, same formulas and all, we can create the database or informatical level and we can consume them in our reporting layer. That whenever we refresh the report, the calculations are not done at report level. Instead, they are done at the database or universe level, which will improve the performance of the BVO reports. That is the first thing that we can do by just checking the report. We can see like if it is the reason for them. That is the first step. What we say. First action item we can do based on the requirement. And the second option will be like operands precedence. We might think like these operators will not matter, but for the calculations and all these operators matter a lot. We should use the fast way. We will use the faster operators when creating conditions. In prompts, we will create conditions or like a state is equal to this much revenue or year equal to 2016. Those conditions we will put. For that, we will use these operators greater than, less than, equal to, less than, or equal to, greater than, or equal to, between, and list. These are all operators that we use. The operands are approximately listed from fastest to slowest. If you see here, this is the order of operators from fast to slow. If you are using equal to, less than, greater than, equal to is the fastest operator. Less than is the second fastest. Greater than is the third fastest. It is put in the fastest to lowest, slowest order low. Equal to, less than, greater than, less than, or equal to, greater than, or equal to, between in list matches pattern, not equal to, not. If you are using equal to operator in most of the conditions, it will not impact the performance. But if we are using not operator in most of the conditions are not equal to our matches pattern, because if you are putting something like a country matches pattern or not, if you say that condition, what it will check is the country name starting with the North, North America, North Central, those kind of. Probability city would check. It has to check for that string. The North, and what is it appearing in the? It has to check for every state name. It has to check if that XT is appearing anywhere in between, whether it can start or it can end. It should check for that particular string in the text, which is having many values. In those scenarios, if we have these conditions, we are using most of these conditions. If you are using it 1 or 2 times, that doesn't matter. But if you are using most of these conditions, it will definitely impact the performance. Based on that also, we can decide if that is the reason for the report slowness. And conditions together are faster than our conditions together. We will not be knowing like this. If you don't read about this, we will we will treat every operator as same, but in the back end, the computation is the same. We will not be knowing that the calculation engine, it will take its own time for each operator. If it is equal to it, it will be less time for it. It is like a matches pattern or not equal to. It will take more time for it to execute even between and also. It seems like and conditions together are faster than our conditions together. If you have multiple conditions and if you are using and it will run the report better, faster than the other. If you have a multiple conditions with R, the operands are also will be matter. Like we will not be knowing like exactly what is the issue for the performance issue, because we will not get any error in those scenarios. It will be like the reports are taking more time to refresh. That is only the issue that we know. We don't get any error. And if we get some error, we might understand like maybe some driver error. If we understand like there is an issue at the driver side. But for these performance things, we will not know the real reason until and unless we do our analysis. We have to go to the reports and we have to do our analysis. We have to check for the hints. If we are close, if we get anything like, if there are any formulas, more variables are there. And if you try to eliminate those formulas, and if we are running the report, if it is refreshing faster, then we might understand like this is causing the issue. These formulas we have to avoid. If possible, we can avoid, or if those formulas are definitely required. We have to use those formulas in the database or informatical layer. And sometimes what people do is they'll create a lot of variables and they sometimes, for their trial and error purpose, they do create a lot of variables. But they will not. They might not be able to use all the variables in the report, but they'll create in those scenarios. Also, if you are not using those variables inside the report, if you are just creating and if you forgot to remove, it will also impact the performance. In those scenarios also, we have to check if there are any redundant variables or objects created. If we can eliminate them or if we can remove them, it is better to remove. But we have to be sure, like if they are not using those variables or formulas anywhere in the report, then we can remove. This operands also. We have to try to use the operators in this order, and we can try to use the an operator then or if possible. It is not like sometimes the logic itself changes if we change the operators or formulas. But if we know the scenario like, if we know this condition, we can try to think in other way to use the operators which are good for our reporting layer, which are like friendly for our reporting performance. We can use. If we know that point only, we will be trying to use that. Otherwise, we think like every operator is same. Every operation is same, but that is not the same here. This is a general checkpoint we can do to check the variables and formulas, to check the operand's precedence. That is one. The second thing is like report format. We can check breaks. It is like a grouping that I will be letting you know tomorrow. Breaks cross-tab reports. Like yesterday, we have covered cross-tab reports. It's like it to be like we will assign. Rows has one object, column has one object, and in the body there will be key figures. That kind of reporting is possible using cross-tab. Cross-tab reports or charts alert us. These will degrade the performance a bit in reports. It is not like we are not saying like you should completely avoid this. You can use it, but this will impact the performance. If that is really required in the report only, we will not use it. We have to use. Otherwise, if it is not as per the requirement, if we just put breaks and cross tabs anywhere which is not required, it is waste of server performance. If it is really required for our reporting, we have to use them, otherwise we can avoid them. Breaks, cross tab, reports charts are alert us. I'm not saying not to use, but based on the requirement, if it is really required, only we will use this. Auto height width. Height and width is there in our report. We can in the report format properties. We can check that. Auto fit with height and width option is there. If we check that based on our text data, it will out of it. If we don't have that option. Also, it is better we can remove that auto height width if possible. In report that we can only do that manually. Once the report is created, it will not change. We can avoid this out of it. Auto height or width option. And this is also I told you in our previous class, we have the option for document properties to refresh and open. If we check that option, refresh and open, whenever we open that report, it will refresh automatically. If you don't want to see the real-time data also, if you just click to see the report, what is it for? Analysis purpose. Or if you just click it also, it will refresh automatically. If you click on that refresh and open, that is not recommended because sometimes we open reports and we might not want to see the real-time data. We just want to check the SQL backend SQL. For that, we don't need to refresh the report. Based on the requirement, only we can refresh the report. If we uncheck that option, refresh and open we have. If we require, we can manually click on the refresh and we will get the latest data. But if you don't want, we will not click on that option and it will not impact the server. It will not give any work to server. We will just open the report. And if we just want a SQL of that, or if you want some formula inside that we can just open and we can just click on that variable and we can take that formula and use it in other reports. But if the refresh and open is checked, if we just want that formula also whenever we open the report, it will refresh. It will take around 5 to 10 minutes if the report is huge. It will unnecessarily impact the server performance. It will take the memory from server. We can try to avoid that by unchecking that option, refresh and open. That is the third point. Use refresh on demand instead of refresh on open. If you really want to see the data, we can just click that manual option. We can see that. This is the fourth point. Also, I have told you like if we have a very large reports, we should not use refresh on demand in BI Launchpad. In my project also, people, the end users, they don't know like this option and they have much of data like I can say like some MBs of data, MB, 10 MB of data also. And they use those reports every week. For that, their weekly reporting. They have to analyze something and they have to report to their managers based on the data. For that, what they do is they will open the report every week and they'll click on refresh and they will give some prompt values. And it will take around 30 to 40 minutes to load the report. And after refreshing the report, they will try to export again from the tool export to Excel. It will again impact the performance of the report. And sometimes they get the error. Sometimes they'll get some errors and they'll ask me like I'm getting this error. I need this report output. How can I fix it? For most of the people I have told them like But the reports which are having very large data, we already know. We are already using the report every week and we know what is the size of the report. And we know like we are using that report every Monday. I have recently also have given demo for two of the users that please don't because they are not from Vivo. They'll just consume the report. They are not technical Vivo people. They don't know. What I told them is like, instead of clicking refreshing this manually, please schedule the report. Instead of double clicking the report, opening the report and clicking refresh button, please click the report schedule. The option that will also or let you know in the future classes scheduled topic is there. It is important. What we can do is click the report, click on schedule. There we will give like when to run. If we want it only once we can run, put the option as run now. But if you want that report every week on Monday, we can put there like weekly report. Start date is this one. Start time is this one and I want the output. As they don't know, they refreshed the report in Webby format and it took around 40 minutes for them. After getting the data, they try to export from the tool itself to Excel. As that is a big data, a huge report, it will again take around 30 minutes for them to export that report to Excel format, which will waste around 1.5 hour of time of the user. Also, it will tremendously impact the server because on the fly we should not refresh the reports which are having huge data. It is always recommended to use the schedule option. If you see this point, fourth point, instead of refreshing on demand in VA Launchpad, we should try to schedule the report, as refreshing will increase load on processing server. There are two types of server. If we just refresh from the tool, it will use the processing server. But if we schedule the report, it will be done on the job server, which is less busy than processing server in most of the cases. Because scheduling reports are using the processing server RAM and its hardware. The job server is like the load of it is very less because it is only used for the scheduled jobs. Other than that, it will not do any work that it will be depending on the job server. If you click on schedule and it will not impact the performance of the report, but the processing server, whatever we create, if you are trying to create a new reports or if you're trying to create any new users, everything will be depending on the processing server. We can say like if there are many developers and many users for Bevo, most of the load is happening on the processing server. Because every time some people create new reports and all, that is anyway have to depend on the processing server. Then why to depend for refreshing? Also, why do we need to depend on the processing server? If the report is huge, if we schedule the report, it will depend on the job server, which is very easy for to handle by job server than processing server in most of the cases. This is the most important thing, which is less known for the Bevo. I mean consumers. They are not technical developers. That's why they don't know. They are not given the proper KT on that. That's why they are using. Even this issue I have recently also come across and they were facing issue. When I explain this scheduling option now, they are saying like they are saving around 2 hours of their weekly time and they don't have any issues. They can just schedule and as it is a one-time job schedule, Monday at 10 a.m., they will be able to see the report date instead of they doing 2 hours on that operation. They can see the data loaded to the Excel and they can do their analysis and they can report to their managers or stakeholders based on that. This is the one of the important thing. It is also part of a performance tuning of the server. And the fifth point is, usually indexes are created on codes or IDs. Always use codes for filter condition. Like if you are keeping any filter condition, it is better to use codes like. There will be some in our real-time project. A company course will be there. They will have some company code with the number end. And they also have a new object. They also have additional object of company description. The same code is like it will be in a text format. But it is always recommended to use the codes in filter conditions because index are used for or fast retrieval of the reports. If you use quotes instead of this description, they use indexes instead of going to the direct object name. If you put like a company code is equal to a company code is equal to 4001, that is the description is like, would we say maybe? Plant. If you just take an example of company code 4001 company name plant. If we use company name as a filter condition, and if you're keeping that in our report filter, it will take time to retrieve the data for the same report. If we take company code and put that in a query filter, company code is equal to 4001. It will take less time because this course and IDs uses indexes for the information retrieval. But this description, they will not use indexes. They have to go to manually in those columns. All the company code columns. They have to check all the rows and go to that column and see what are all the matching with the plant. And they have to take the data from the database. It will be taking a lot of time. Instead, if you use company code, they will use an index of company code and it is much faster because dealing with the numbers is faster than dealing with text. For any computation engine, try to use in the course or IDs in filter conditions. If there is a possibility, if some person is using company code, company name as a query filter, they will definitely be knowing that for that company code is 4001 because those are limited. There will be limited company course before in our company, maybe around 8 to 10. It will not be much. They'll, as a functional people, they will definitely know what is 4001 means. If they don't, if they know like that, it is better to use that in query filter instead of text data like company description in the query filter. If you see this in more elaborated. If report query is using description as filter, then add one more filter with the corresponding code if you are using description as a filter. If you don't know like what is the corresponding code, it is better if you definitely won't need to use the company description. Then we have to add corresponding code also. In this way also, it will improve the performance. This concept works fine for pre-canned reports. And how reports? User generated. Users have no idea which columns are indexed. One idea is to create object names mentioning whether they are indexed or not. Users, they will not be having any idea like because they'll just consume the report. They don't know technical background technicality. They don't have any idea on which columns are indexed. One idea is to create object names mentioning whether they are indexed or not. That is also not possible in our universe layer. That they will know, like this is indexed, this is not indexed. Let's take indexed object, which will improve the query performance or report performance. Using hyperfixed option is using hyperindex and inch, another 8. As shown here. Now look at the object name. Let's add one now by using hyper, but first into the main costs. Can I put a mix of your site, how to save, or writing a blogging now note to a horsepower in? In this aspect, no code, no help, butter almost. A turn enter, they will go and access that report. Otherwise, if they are with this higher level of data, they will consume that it will be useful for both of us, for our users and also for the system performance. It is better. That it will prevent queries hitting from the database frequently. The data will be stored in the cubes because we already created one more kind of report and it will not hit the database every time, which will improve the performance. And the seventh point is like a allow duplicate rows option in report. We put remove duplicate rows option. If there are any duplicates in our report formatting, report properties click, we can see like allow or remove duplicate rows. If you click on remove duplicate from the report side, it will tremendously increase the performance. It seems because it has to check whether there are any duplicate rows and it has to suppress the duplicate rows. It will impact the performance for that situation. If it is the reason and if you want to improve the performance, we can uncheck that option and we can take the report. And if there are any duplicates from the Excel side or from the work, if we export that to Excel, there also we can remove the duplicates. There are other options to do. We don't want the duplicate. If it is possible and if it is recommended, we can also check this option. We can allow the duplicate rows option in our report. And eighth one is union data. Whenever possible, we should use union instead of adding additional data providers. Sometimes what we do is if we want a query to get the data of different data, we can use union data. And we can use the same universe. In our situations, like in our query panel, we use some filters. And we want to other filters to also there. For one report, we use state filter, another report, we use some product filter. And if you want to combine them, instead of adding that as a new data source, add data source and use the same universe. There is also option we have like in the universe add data provider and we can use the same universe and we can change the conditions there. And we can merge in our neural network report. Instead of doing that, if we can do union, if we can create subqueries and do the union, it is better instead of adding one more data provider. Union makes a DB server do the synchronization instead of the business objects. If you perform the union in the query panel, it will make the DB server means database server to do the synchronization. The synchronization is not happening at the report level. Instead of it is happening at the database server. The load on server will be less and the reports will be fastly refreshed. This is one of the things that we can do. These 8 things that we have that we can do from the reporting side. These are all the options that we can do. Like if we recap, we can use union. And we can allow duplicate tools option in that property. We can use hyperlink feature. We can try to use the objects which are having some code or IDs in query filter instead of some description. And if there are very large reports, we should never refresh the report from the tool. Instead, we have to schedule the report. It is always preferred to uncheck that refresh on open proper option in the document properties. And the auto fit of height and width is also. If we uncheck, it is good. And breaks, cross tabs alert us. If it is really required in the report layout, then only we have to use. Otherwise, it's better not to use the formulas and variables also if required. If the formulas are having many with a huge calculation, it is better to create those formulas at the universe or informatica layer. And if there are unused formulas or variables are there in report layer, we can try to remove them. These are the things that we can do from Beaver Web Intelligence side or Beaver Report side. That is the things that can be done from a report layer. This below section is the performance of the database level can be made optimized optimum by using following actions. What are the actions that we can do at database level? Use of explain plan. Analyze all the tables used in report query. In our SQL, we can see the backend SQL of the report. There we can see what are all the table names which we are using in the report. First, we have to analyze all the tables used in report query. This will update table statistics, information on the table, and guide Oracle to generate optimized execution plan. If you are using what I can have a database, we will. If you know the tables which we are using in the report, we can use that in update table statistics, which will be used for Oracle to generate optimized execution plan. Check the explain plan. If the explain plan shows full tables, can't, for any huge table, create index on the table or check if index is disabled. In the database side, we have a database. We have an option of explain plan. If we check that, it will show full table scan. It will scan all the full tables for any huge table, and it will say whether there is an index or not if it is disabled. It is always recommended to have an index. If it is not there, it is better to create an index, which is very important for faster information retrieval. See here, the second point is also same use of index. Check whether indexes are present for all columns used in joins and filters of the query. This is very much important. We are not saying to use index for all the objects, but whatever all the objects which we are using for joins. Like in the data foundation layer, we have joined the tables using some article ID, product D. Those IDs, they should be indexed primary. Those IDs should be set the option of index and also joins and also filters. We will be using some filters in the query level or in the universe level. The objects which we use in the filter or query level, they also should be indexed for the faster retrieval of the report, because based on that filter and those joining conditions, only we are getting the data from the database side. The two tables are joining means we are using some join condition. We are using with one of the object. It is very much important. Like those joining objects and the query filter objects. They should be having some index. If the indexes are present for those columns, it will really improve the performance of the report. The second point is if number of distinct values in that column is less than creation of bitmap index. It is like a more of a database side, which we might not require. It is like we have to use the indexes. Just remember that point. I think you can just read it, but it is not from our side, just to have a basic understanding like what they do at the database level. And if someone asks us question, we just say like indexing will improve the performance of the report. Oh, then they will understand like these people know some data. Where has concepts? Because one person cannot do everything at a time. They can. We cannot create a reports and visualizations and the universe and also database cannot maintain. There are different teams for different work. If Jen having some basic understanding and knowledge is sufficient, do not use calculations or functions on index columns. Otherwise, it will bypass the index. See, we should not use calculations or functions on index columns because if you are using those formulas, it will bypass in the indexed columns. It will bypass the index. It will not use the index which we have created and it will bypass, which will impact the performance of the report. Use a disabled index. If you see here, the first point, salary by 12 greater than 2000. Here we are doing calculation on the objectives by salary. Instead of that, we can put that by 12. We can multiply that salary by 12 means it is what we say monthly salary, maybe. Instead of keeping this here, we can put like salary is greater than what they are thinking is salary storing annual salary. If you want to compare the monthly salary, what we have to do is as it is an annual salary by 12, we are doing. It is a calculation wise. It is correct only. But performance wise salary by 12 means we are doing directly some calculation on the object. It will disable the index. If we use salary is greater than 2000 into 12. Here is also like the same formula. We are instead of by here, we are doing it here. The calculation is also correct, but here it will not disable the index because we are not directly performing any calculation on the salary. We are just comparing the salary. These minor points we have to know and using our best what we say to create a report in the best performance way. Here, the other formula is trunk of sales date is greater than trunk of system date. Here we are performing trunk operation from calculation on sales date. It will also bypass the index. Instead of that, we can change the formula like sales date between trunk of system date and trunk of system data. We have to think of other ways of using formula. And to not to do any calculation directly on the object. And these are the use indexes on below type of columns. What are all the objects which we need to create indexes? Primary key columns means if there is an employee table, employee key is a primary key, foreign key column. And if employee is joining with the product table, employee is joining with the pro-arm company table. Company ID is a primary key of company table. Employee ID is a primary key of employee table. But if they are both joining, then they are not a primary key. A company. ID will be a company. ID will be a foreign key of the employee table. It is the primary key of other table, which we are. If you are storing that in our employee table, it is called as a foreign key. Use indexes on what we have to use indexes. We have to use index on primary key column, foreign key columns, columns used in order by clause. If you are doing some order by using some objects like order by date, we can put that order by data. The data, whatever we are using that date. Also, we should use index columns used in group by clause column specified exactly in where clause. Sometimes we use this group by order by where in the SQL site. Whatever all the objects that we are using in these classes, if we put indexes for them, it is nothing but where means it is comparing something and giving it. Oh, where sales state is equal to California, there. If we put some that far, if that for that state, if we are keeping index, it will improve the performance. In general, use index columns that are included in the where clause using conditions that don't include functions or calculations. Do not use indexes for columns with text, image, or bit data type. You should not use indexes for columns with the extra data, and we should mostly use the indexes for columns with the number data columns, which are not unique columns. Those are not too wide to be useful for indexes. This is about indexing. What are all the indexing is the main thing. It will tremendously improve the performance of the report. If we properly use the indexes for the objects, this is very much important topic from the database side. Use of hints. Sometimes use of hints optimize the performance. Useful hints for BO reports are all rows parallel. This is the more of a database side which we don't require. Avoid is null is not null. Sometimes in formulas we will compare. We do the comparison using is null or is not null. Avoid such comparisons as much as possible. Null values should be replaced with dummy values. Instead of comparing with the if this object is null, then don't give that in report. We will write some formulas like that. Instead of comparing that, what we can do from the database side is in the universe side also. We can create some objects and we can put like if this object is null, assign it as a with the null, put the dummy value like if it is not, put NVL or some name, some text that we are not comparing in the report side. We will do that in a universe level. It will improve the performance of the report. Partitioning of the tables in the database. It is a job of a database, guys. Always, we should partition the large table based on the specific criteria to avoid the backup restore and lengthy query times if the table is very huge. In those scenarios, they can split the tables into 2 to 3 tables with the proper logic and all. That the criterion mean the number range, date range. For that, to do the partition, the criteria may be number range or date range, like the data which is having like 2000 before 2020 in one table. After 2020 in other table like that. It is based on the data which is handling, the table which is handling. We can do the partitioning. It is better to do partitioning at tables to avoid the performance issues in the future. If we are using single huge table having loads of data, it will definitely impact the performance which of the reports or dashboards which these tables are being used. For that, based on some criteria, by using number range means first 10,000 rows in one table. Like that, they will have some options and they can do that partitioning that it will not impact the reports. In and usage of in and exist in subqueries. These also we have to avoid mostly. I never use this, but if you are using this in subqueries, we have to avoid because it will also impact the server performance. Today we have seen like how performance tuning can be done from BO side. Report side, like some properties and some options are there and variables. Instead of creating a report layer, we can do in our database or informatical layer. Those are all some top steps that we can do from BO report side. Scheduling and from the database side also, indexing is the most important topic and partitioning of the tables is possible and we can avoid. Is null, is not known by creating some dummy variables in the universe side objects. We can create dummy variables and we can assign them. Indexing is the most important thing for performance tuning. From the database side, it is about performance tuning of Beaver reports, which I have covered as usual. If you guys were interested to get this topic, it is most of the interviews people ask this. It's better to have some idea. You can talk confidently. We might not be able to do all these options by ourselves, but having an idea is very much important and it is basic. Please do like, share and subscribe to our channel. For more information, contact us sales@uptalk.com.